Welcome. This is Joe Scorese, founder and host of the Creative Birth Strategies podcast. Here every week, Saturdays and Sundays, 8 a.m. and 9:30 a.m. Saturday and Sunday morning. But we also have some great featured speakers and educators that we bring on, additionally to our podcast that we hold every Saturday and Sunday. I want to thank our sponsors. Always, we wouldn't be here without them. We have Perkatech with Yardell Perkins, our social media strategist. We have Lenmar Capital, our asset-based lender. We have also MB Capital, your unsecured business line of credit concierge. And we have Realty 411, which is your national publication of real estate education and events throughout the country. So today, we have a colleague of mine that we're acquainted through MB Capital, and Eric Moss, who I go back quite a long time. And Eric thought it would be a good idea to sit down and have a little powwow with Mr. Jason Powers, Unbridled Wealth, a wealth strategist and authorized IBC practitioner, to discuss infinity banking. How are you, Jason, this morning? Good morning.
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on.
So, let's first talk about your relationship with Eric and infinite banking, and where did that come about, and where we are today with all of this.
Yeah. So if you've met Eric, great guy. We've been working together. He's in the his space and helping people get financing through credit and so we met a couple years ago and with what I'm doing with infinite banking, he already understood infinite banking and what it was and it was just a good pairing. We hit it off and just kind of have been working together over the past couple years. That's how obviously I got to meet you and yeah, it's a great pairing over the years because everybody needs financing, but everybody needs to control the banking function in their life over time.
So, a little bio on your background. How did you get into infinite banking? How did it become about that you became this wealth strategist and authorized IBC practitioner? A little background on yourself and where it led up to today.
Yeah, I've had several businesses over the years, over the past 25 years, and still have a couple of businesses going. And I heard about infinite banking years ago, also on a podcast, and from a gentleman that was talking about how you could pay down debt and build up capital at the same time you're paying down the debt. Basically the same dollar doing multiple things at once. And I was like, oh, this is hocus pocus. There's no way. And I had some debt. And so I called him and I was like, let's talk and show me how this works. And he showed me how it works, helped me set up a plan, and I implemented it. And wouldn't you know it, it worked and it was awesome. And it got me out of debt. And then I had cash to show for it at the end as well. And I was also doing real estate investing. So I got into, I was doing wholesaling and then fixed flips, got into the buy hold scene, got into a commercial, we bought a camping and recreation area and start redeveloping that. And just over the years, and always I was like, this infinite banking thing is just a great vehicle to turbocharge my existing strategies. Anyway, I loved it so much. I got into it as a career after that. And here I am today.
Well, you sound passionate about it. So, like, what in the world is the infinite banking concept?
So I like to say it's the best place to warehouse your wealth, as guarantees safety, provides access to your money, allowing you to control the banking function in your life. Prefacing that, we have a need to control the banking function in our life. We give control away. And so the infinite banking concept is about how do we control that banking function ourselves, right? We finance everything we do in life, between cars and mortgages and college and credit cards, and we finance everything. And I always ask people, like, what would life be like if you could be the bank? You know, now we in real estate, we like leverage, and so we like to utilize that financing space, and there is a need for that. But if you think of the big picture throughout our whole life, what is it like to control that banking function in your own life? In real estate, most of us aspire to build up uh, enough free cash flow to where we can just have passive income, right? We want to have that control of our own life. So why not along the way set yourself up to control your banking function in your own life as well? So the vehicle through which we teach people how to implement the infinite banking concept is properly structured. I get real wordy about it, but it's properly structured dividend paying whole life insurance from a mutual carrier. So that's a mouthful. And I always joke with me, say that 10 times fast. It's properly structured. It is not your grandparents' old life insurance policy. So if you have any
Mhm.
preconceptions of what whole life insurance is, throw it out the door if you've never heard of infinite banking and start from scratch, because it is not like certain financial gurus today rail against. It is structured different. There's a misrepresentation from a lot of these people. So it's properly structured. Dividend paying from a mutual carrier. I say that because there's two types of insurance companies. There's stock-owned companies and there's mutual carriers. As a stock-owned company, it's interests for the stockholders, right? So as a mutual carrier, basically as one of the policy holders, you're one of the owners of the company, thus entitled to the profits which come in the form of dividends. So there's reasons we use these certain carriers, and so I say properly structured dividend paying from mutual carrier. I'm also talking about whole life insurance. There's a lot of different kinds of life insurance out there, but for purposes of infinite banking, we talk straight whole life insurance and just show you how to set up a system in your own life to build up that cash flow to be able to utilize.
So let's break down some of the features and benefits of infinite banking for us.
Yep. So it's this multitasking vehicle, this vehicle that can do a lot of different things at once. And so my absolute, so first of all, let me say, when we think about infinite banking, we need to change the way we think about our finances. We need to think about how might we change the flow of our money and how might that better us versus some traditional flows. What do I mean by that? I mean, so an example might be, let's say we go into debt over a car. We want to finance a car. So we finance the car, we drop down into the negative and we go into debt and we pay it off over time. Then we get back to zero, we finance another car, pay it off over time. So that's the debtor, we would call it. The saver does the opposite. It says, I don't want to go into debt over it. I'm going to save until I have enough. And then I'll spend on the car and go back to zero, save again for another car, go back to zero. So we reset. In both scenarios, you reset to zero every time.
Mhm.
The utilizing infinite banking is changing the flow of your money by pushing money through a policy and then pulling from the policy, borrowing against the cash value of that policy to finance your own car in this example we're using. And that's changing the flow of the money. Now we've moved money through a policy instead of going to a bank and what have you. So it creates different results. That being said, it is a vehicle through which we have uninterrupted compounding growth inside the policy throughout the entire life of the policy. So what do I mean by that? I mean, if I've got, pick any dollar amount, if I've got 10,000 or 50,000 or 100,000 built up in cash value inside my policy and I borrow against that amount, it continues to compound inside the policy as if the money never left. And so this uninterrupted compounding throughout an entire lifetime is pretty impressive. And people, we usually don't understand it. If we've never heard of it, we've never looked at it, that's hard to imagine because we think of, say, okay, think of your savings account. Or now we have these high yield savings, okay, 4 or 5%. You got money in there and it's growing at 4 or 5%. Great. Let's say we have 100,000 in there and we borrow half of it or we take half of it out. It's only growing on what you left in there, correct? Any investment vehicle, you do that. Your IRAs, your 401s, any of these things. When you pull from the principal, it's only growing on what you left in there. Inside of whole life, you're borrowing against the whole amount. So the whole amount is actually still growing as if you never touched it. And that's hard to beat anywhere else in the long run. Now, so I think that's the single greatest benefit. Your cash value over time will exceed your outlay, what you put into your policy, and it'll continue to compound throughout your entire life. The gains, so to speak, inside the policy are not taxable because you will always access them as loans, and the IRS does not tax on loans. So there's a proper way to access that cash throughout your life so that there's no tax implications. It's this vehicle through which you can use it now throughout your entire life, building, growing, and then you're using it to make you money or save you money, right? Don't go and buy a pack of bubble gum with it, as I say. Use it to make you money or save you money, but then you can also use it to supplement or be your retirement income at retirement on an income tax-free basis when accessed right. And so there's just this multifaceted vehicle that's doing lots of different things at once. It's not an investment product. So it is detached from the market. It's an asset class.
So this is a very unique financial instrument. So how would you use this in real estate as a real estate professional?
So obviously, like we've talked about, we want to build this up to be our own bank, to replace over time, have the ability to let me access the cash value of my policy instead of having to go and get a 14% loan or whatever it is for short term. So you want to replace the bank throughout your entire life. So I'm going to use it, say, in wholesaling. I've got cash value built up in here. I can use it for quick transactions, if I need to. In fix and flips, I'm going to use it maybe early on. I'm using it to cover, if it depends on your dollar amount, right? Maybe early on, I'm using it to cover the construction costs. I'll still finance the rest of it, but now I've saved myself. I'm using it to finance the construction costs. And then maybe in rentals, maybe I'm going to buy the property outright, or maybe I'm going to use it to be the down payment on these properties. And so in either of those scenarios, it's this vehicle. So let's say the fix and flip scenario. Let's say I've taken 50,000 out of my cash value and I'm using it for the construction side. Let's say for some reason it takes me a year on that deal, God forbid, on a regular flip deal. So then, but the cash value inside my policy is still growing, even though I've done pulled it out. So the money I pulled out is going to make me money in the end. But my money here is, it's still growing uninterrupted. And so you've got situations where, take the rental scenario. You've got a guy who is now set up. He started with a modest annual policy. He had some rental properties, but he's in a position now. He's borrowing from his policy every single year to buy a house. And he's setting that house up. He's now the mortgage. And so he's setting each via rents, he'll pay back that mortgage payment to himself. Every dollar he pays back, he's recapturing, and he can recycle back out to use for something else. And so he's stacking rentals every single year now because of it. Just because he changed the flow of his money. Originally, that example right there, his original approach was he was taking the free cash flow from rents because he didn't need that income right now. He was taking the free cash flow from rents, putting it in a savings account. And then when he would have enough, he would buy another property. So we changed the flow of the money and it offset him a little bit, but now he's buying one every single year through his policy. And it's like I said, we're not changing his strategy in real estate investing. We're changing the flow of his money. Mm-hmm. So he's still making money all the way he was. And now he's changed the flow of it. And he's going to have extra cash in there year over year over year over year over year for the rest of his life. And then he's going to retire on that also, above and beyond his free cash flow and his rental income.
So besides real estate, does infinite banking concept have any purposeful use? And how else can it be used, to an investor or a true professional in the field that has that accessibilities?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so if we stay on the real estate side, a lot of people will, if you're getting beyond, say we've used wholesales, flips, some buy holds, you can get into commercial property, obviously multifamily and things like that, but you can also get into private money lending. So private money lenders, that's a great vehicle to get your money pushed through here. And then now your money's not only doing what you're loaning it out to do, it's also building inside the policy, so you've got that also this multitasking dollar once again. But let's take away real estate, for example, for a minute. We've talked about just things what do we finance in our own life? I mean, everything. Cars, I will be actually I've set my kids up with policies. So by the time they're 16, I will have taught them, they'll be able to borrow against their policies for their car, and then they'll pay that back over 3 or 5 years, however we set it up. And so now they are their own bank already by the time they're buying a car. So you can finance your own cars. And then by the time they get to college, there'll be enough in there they can utilize for a year or 2 or 3 of college. And then that's aside from, we're using these 529 plans and other vehicles to save up for college. That's a great vehicle. So it can pay for college. And then you could do it obviously for houses. You buy your own house, down payments, weddings, put it on a credit card, get the points, and then borrow from your policy, pay off the credit card, and then pay your policy back. And one feature, which we didn't get to, is when you borrow against the policy, it's an unstructured loan. So you get to control how do you want to pay that back? How fast do you want to pay? Do I want to pay it back in a day, a month, a year, 10 years? The carrier does not put any requirements on that. You dictate the loan terms.
So how does one get started? I know a lot of people give you a lot of different ideas out there. There's a lot of I'll say educational stuff. I'll just call it stuff. What do I need to be prepared calling you, getting myself ready to get started?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I have a kind of a we're kind of a three-step approach. One, I don't charge you. Okay. The only money out of pocket for people is what they're putting into policies.
Got it.
So my primary focus is going to be I want to educate you and make sure you understand what we're doing here. You got to understand infinite banking. You want to know why you're doing what you're doing. You know, it's a bigger picture than just. It's not about how can I put my money into something and make a huge rate of return. This is not that vehicle. This is a vehicle through which you turbocharge, you accelerate, and you build up to replace that banking function throughout your entire life. So education is first. Second is strategy planning. We're going to sit down and talk through strategy. What's you and your situation? Everybody has different goals and objectives. We want to have a little bit of a financial conversation, talk, what your income expenses, what your assets, liabilities, goals, and objectives. And that gives me a full picture to make some appropriate recommendations. And then you, the client, and I talk through those ideas and what can we come up with that works for you. It needs to be affordable. I'm not just trying to sell you a policy. You need to have something that you're going to be happy with through your whole life. It is whole life insurance, not just today. It's whole life insurance. It needs to be purposeful throughout your whole life. So anyway, strategy planning, and then I will help you implement that. I will help you get the policy and get it in play. And then obviously I kind of joke with clients. I say we have to like each other because we're stuck with each other through till the end of one of our lives, probably. And so
Yeah.
we're going to get along and we're going to talk. And I have clients that call me all the time with new ideas. Hey, I got this idea. I wonder if it could work with this. And how do we use this for a policy? And we bust out the spreadsheets and we do some strategy planning, a year, 2, 3, 5 years in. So I'm with you along the way.
So this is a very interesting last question I have personally. Like, why aren't you at enough real estate investor association meetings? Like, why are you there? Like, I mean, you should be like part of everybody's power team. Like, what
Yeah.
am I missing here? Is it because you're not really selling something? You're just kind of providing a service? What's the miss that I'm missing here? Because
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of education and
Yeah.
strategy. And if Eric gave you any background about me, I'm right to the point. So I want to understand why should a real estate investors association or investor group have Jason out there to talk about infinite banking concept?
Absolutely. I think it's a game changer for real estate investors. I speak with passion. I speak from experience too, though. I'm not just selling something because
Yeah.
I'm living it. I've been practicing it myself, you know, and I can give you my own examples. And so, but anyway, that's kind of why I set out to with my real estate background.
Yeah.
I've partnered with the National Real Estate Investor Association, so I'm their guy for all things infinite banking and life insurance, and so I try to get out to, and my mission is to, expose the 10%, as we might say, get people educated and get the country educated because it will change your game. It will, and I don't know why. Part of it is there's a lot of misconceptions out there.
Yeah.
We
I
have
think that's what it is.
we have certain big name financial gurus who are out there who rail against whole life. But if we were to sit and talk, it would be we're talking about two different things in the end. And people don't understand that because they don't understand life insurance. And so we're changing the way we think about our finances. And that is hard for people because we have the collective who is the arrival syndrome. We have arrived. I already know all there is to know. And you can't really bring in this new idea. I've never heard of it, therefore it must be a gimmick. It's too good to be true, therefore it can't possibly work. So you have these mindsets, and that's hard to overcome. I can't change that mindset for you. I can explain it to you. And then we
Well,
want to
hopefully this will help.
yeah,
Hopefully this will help. I mean, I get it, and I see where the benefit is. What is the best way to reach out to you to set up a strategy discussion and to get started getting into this?
I think you can go to my website, 1024wealth.com, 1024wealth.com. You can book an appointment through there. I have a direct Calendly link. If you want, it's calendly.com/JasonKPowers/REI for real estate investor. I suppose you guys can put that out there on your channels too. But again, 1024wealth.com. Reach out to me, calendly.com/JasonKPowers/REI. That'll book an appointment right with me. You can pick the time and let's talk. No strings attached. Again, I'm not charging you. I want to educate you first and make sure you understand it. Because if you don't understand it, you're not going to want to do it. And I don't want to try to talk you into it if you don't, that's not my purpose. My purpose is to make sure you understand it. If you understand it, you will know what to do. And I guarantee it.
Well, Jason, I want to thank you for the time this morning. I know we had a little shakiness on our side in getting communication out there, but we're here today, and I really appreciate your time this morning. We're going to push this out to our broadcast, to YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, LinkedIn, all the great social media buckets. I want to thank our sponsors, Yardell Perkins of Perkatech, Realty 411 of Linda Blagas, MB Capital with Eric Moss, and Lenmark Capital and myself. This was a great understanding of infinite banking and getting in the starting lane with you. So I want to thank you again. Have a great day, and we'll see you again on the streets of Creative BRRRR Strategy Podcast.